DM should have probably checked my attacks. So we had an encounter with 4 very powerful bandits in the middle of the woods. One downed me after I took him to bloodied with a bunch of monk attacks. So the man yanked the sword from my character. When I lucked out on saving throws and got up, he replied, "Aha, you can't do anything now. I have your weapon." My sword did 1d8 plus 4. My unarmed strikes are 1d8 plus 4. The sword was just sentimental to the character. So I went. The monk got visibly upset. Possibly the most upset the group has seen, from the small monk pivoting his tiny legs into a defensive position. He takes a martial arts stance. I'd like to use flurry of blows and I'll start with stunning strike with each attack until it succeeds. Enemy fails a saving throw. Enemy is stunned and all attacks against him gained advantage. All the hits that failed were met with me using my lucky feat to reroll a success. I've never seen a DM gasp in disbelief so hard in my life. Turns out there was supposed to be reinforcement in a few turns. Except they didn't, because my monk attacks annihilated and stunned their leader. The DM pulled us into a meeting after the session was over. "Hey, I might not be able to play next week." That was the bad guy that was going to be a major part of the next 5 sessions. He was supposed to show up and show off how powerful he was in a brutal battle with the group and escape. He wasn't expecting immediate step of the wind use in move 1, flurry of blows, and stunning strikes to change that. The campaign group was quietly dissolved. We stayed friends and still laugh about it sometimes. A player got upset because I disrespected silver dragons. I have been playing with this group for a while. We have played a few short modules together. Now we decided to start a long campaign, and I was the DM. Our table had 4 other people: the sorcerer, the ranger, the paladin and the druid. This was supposed to be the first session of the campaign. All of them met in the village named Basra, named after a cloud giant who was sort of a legendary hero for the entire area after he had killed a silver dragon few decades ago. That had gone mad because of reasons no one knew, and Basra had to kill his old friend. They were supposed to form a group together for a festival event to bring a flower that bloomed each year where the dragon was killed. This story was where the ranger started arguing out of nowhere, not in character, but out of character with me, saying that it didn't make sense, that a silver dragon was evil. I just said that it's the story you hear from the townsfolk, but she started arguing more out of character that a cloud giant couldn't possibly kill a silver dragon, even saying that I needed to learn to create stories that made sense and were true to how these creatures were supposed to be. I told her that this was uncalled for, and if she wanted to plot a 6A story she shouldn't have decided on me being the DM, and that I had spent close to a week planning the first few sessions in the places. She got quiet after this, and I didn't think much of it until someone else asked her to speak. She started crying, threw her stuff, and left the room. Her friends later texted saying that she wasn't used to confrontation and I shouldn't have put her in a spot. I'm still confused how I did that, and have no idea why this happened like this. I had thought she was a bit difficult to deal with previously, because even in previous games she had kept arguing until she got her way or just started pouting, but this time was just too ridiculous. Now we are down 2 players because her friend left the table along with her. Edit. Thank you everyone for so many positive replies. The other 2 players really want to continue to play, so that's a positive. We are trying to see if we'll find more people interested in playing. Many people have asked about what the actual reason behind what had occurred was. I might not write about it here though, because my players know about this post now. Player gets drunk at table. So I've been for some friends for about 2 years now. We have always enjoyed playing together, and we'd occasionally lightly drink some or something to get a little tipsy and loosen up to role playing. We've never had any problems. Well, for context, we have just finished COS and started a new campaign that I've been working on for the past few months. I politely asked all of my players to not drink on this first session due to the fact that this campaign was gonna be a mystery and you'd probably need a clear head for it. They all agreed. Now when the problem player arrives, he comes bringing in 4 bottles of wine. I remind him that it's better to be sober for this session and he says he'll take it easy. 4. Empty bottles later he is absolutely fucked at the table and is barely playing. One of my other players get pissed and leaves. And soon everyone else does as well. The problem player is now the only one left at my apartment and says that this was the most fun I've had at D&D in weeks. It really hurt and pissed me off. But it's weird because he never acts like this. This was really just a rant, not really looking for advice tbh. Edit. I've heard what everyone has said and I agree that he's probably going through some hard times. I didn't see that at first due to being frustrated. But I will try and talk to him to make sure everything is alright. My DM decided to help our PC team as a DMPC. My DM decided to help our team by joining. Our DM created a character at the beginning of the game, which is fully understandable. The character was a story progressor, essentially. I have no problem with this. A character used to progress a story is fine. My problem is this. He made it, so his character has an infatisp that's not a joke. That's what his character sheet says. Can use any spell at will, and only has to touch something to kill it, as he has unlimited death touch. He also has roughly 20 large slimes. Every combat that we've had he decides that he wants to demonstrate his power to us. And does something new to just kill whatever enemy we are fighting. A giant king that is basically a Dark Souls type character that he can kill in one turn. Oh man, that's fun for the players. I honestly didn't expect it to work. Is his excuse every time. I want to drop out of this campaign. But I don't want to upset my friend. What do I do? I'm not having fun just sitting there trying to do a fight where I get one turn before whatever we are fighting dies because he can do 50 d10 damage from a single spell. Then his slimes come right after him, doing basically the same thing. I don't know how, but they do. DM made a game for one player. IF had only been playing 4th for a few months back in 2011 with my roommates and my husband and boyfriend. One of my roommates had been a DM before and asked if we wanted to start a second game to play every other week to give our current DM a break and get to play. We all agreed excitedly and wrote up characters. I played a Scion, my husband a Warden, my roommate a Druid, our other roommate a Ranger. And our DM decided to play 3 NPCs, a Fighter, a Wizard, and a Cleric. We figured our party was a little small so 3 NPCs would be helpful. Except we never got to do anything. The Druid got to do everything. The story centered around her entirely. Which was mostly alright as she had the most important backstory, and it could cause the biggest conflict which we all thought would be fun. Again this wasn't a problem, and brought us together as a group rather quickly as we all wanted to protect her from the BBEG. We were traveling around trying to find a way to defeat the BBEG as he was a super powerful necromancer. We kept coming across things that required our skill checks for. Like locked doors. Heavy boulders hiding a secret passage, a language scrawled on the walls, etc. We kept offering to move things, decode things, or even a simple perception check, but our DM would say, don't worry NPC has it. Oh NPC is already deciphering the language. All except for the Druid, if she wanted to do something the DM would let her. It got to the point that we were all just playing around on our phones. Or stacking dice, or drawing. We complained a little about not getting to do anything, and she'd just throw us into super hard combat whenever we did. So we stopped complaining for fear that she'd kill off our characters, and anytime we'd go into a new place to investigate she'd ask what our characters would do, and my response would always be, I hold the torch. We still had fun doing a few other things in the campaign, and she was our roommate, so we didn't want to quit the game but it really made it not fun when all the excitement we ever got was combat. Guy hits on my wife, gets political and tries to take my players. So I was ming at my house. They were my friends since early college. One of them wanted to invite another friend over because he needs a buddy right now. I relent, thinking it's because he's depressed or something. I was wrong. So the only important people you really need to know are Buddy and my wife girlfriend at the time. So Buddy gets there after all of the rest of us and notices me and my girlfriend cuddling on the couch watching TV until everyone shows up. He proceeds to hit on my girlfriend relentlessly until the rest told him to knock it off. I decide to let it go. Because he stopped, and I'm willing to give this guy the benefit of the doubt. So we start getting character sheets set up. This is session 0 and it's Pathfinder. So it's taking a while when someone makes a joke about the election. It was obviously just a joke, and it was about this taking forever. Buddy took it a bit personally and started stating his political views loudly and aggressively. We ask him to stop kindly and he refuses. Getting louder. So I tell him that if he can't control himself, I will ask him to leave. He has already caused enough discomfort. That is when he loses it, claiming I'm treading all over his rights of free speech and stomping around the house. I tell him flatly to get out of my house. He then looks at all my friends and says that they should come over to his place for game night instead. They all refuse because I'm obviously the one who planned this. So he storms out. I thought that was the last of it. But I was wrong. After he left, I was told why he needed a buddy. Apparently he was a repeat offender of child porn and was going to jail 4 years soon. My friend wanted me to bring a sexual predator into my home. Needless to say, that friend is no longer a friend and buddy is still in jail as far as I know. DM took our gold away. Is a pretty short story that happened just today. In the last session, our party found a big chest full of gold in some kind of vault hidden in a cemetery. We took all the gold and put it into our bags. Soon after that, we had to fight some kind of a skeleton lord. He was our first serious boss in this campaign. After killing the boss, which took like 23 hours, session ended and we had 2 weeks break in our campaign. At that time we all planned what we are going to do with so much gold. We planned to buy some armors and weapons to be more effective in the fight. But after 2 weeks, when we came back to this campaign, DM started by basically saying that as we kill the skeleton lord we can feel our bags becoming much lighter. When we checked our bags, it turned out that all the gold we found was gone. To be honest, I don't know how to feel about that. To be fair, there was a lot of gold, maybe even too much, but giving people a ton of money, 2 weeks to plan what we are going to do with it. To just take it away is in my opinion a DCK move. Tell the DM what you actually want. Here's a short one with a happy ending I just remembered. I had a player who was new to the game. So as I always like to do, I was helping him build his first PC, as D&D can be rather counterintuitive at times and I have seen a lot of new players regret their PCs and beg for death. We did not get very far on this one. I want to be a werewolf. I explained to him this was not going to happen as werewolves are immune to non-magical damage and passively regain health, which... No. This made him want it more. So I told him that no, and besides, lycanthropy turns you into an evil madman in my world. He got mad at me and tried to prove I was a bad DM with list articles he found on some BuzzFeed-like website. He kept yelling at me for like a week, showing me all kind of broke homebrew and insisting it was balanced while complaining about variant rules I wasn't even using. I told him that if he wanted he could play a barbarian flavored as a werewolf from the Elder Scrolls plane shifted in, or a warden brought in with those same rules. But he kept yelling about how he had to be a werewolf and that it was my job. After about a week he finally gave up and said, but he mostly just wanted the body. He just wanted to be a humanoid canine who could walk fine on 2 legs or 4. This was not an issue. It never was. I explained to him that I already had a custom race system and a race of canine-like people that I had already approved, and that kobolds already walk that way, which is odd but okay. Finally he was happy. We have not had any more issues. But like I said, I told him several times some things he could have, but because he never told me what he was actually looking for, I was unable to help him. DM didn't like my success, decided to retcon it. In one of my adventures I played a universe jumper. The GM introduced us to the cult of the Beg. They were a cult of raven worshipping cultist. They showed up aggressively and I switched it to, oh, I don't want to fight. What's your religion about? The DM paused for a good 10 seconds before replying. We worship ravens that lead our god back to resurrection. I replied, can they be prophets too? Yes. They lead us toward the righteous future. My character was a universe jumper and was built for every possible way to be extremely useful outside of combat. So, using the stack of popular books from a different universe item that EM gave me, I asked if I had Edgar Allan Poe. Yeah, sure, it's a collection of your favorite books. 5 rolls later, and enough bullshitting the cultists, I introduced them to the raven that said nevermore, and said it was news. DM got to the point he wasn't letting me pass rolls under 15 DC at this point, but somehow I managed to convince them that the talking raven poem was meant for them, and wanted to tell them to summon their master nevermore. DM gave us a big speech of how we changed their mind, Dan. This is where it gets weird. He gives us the win, then says but this would dissolve the cult, and I can't have that. So Imhana rewind to the meeting. All players were teely confused, none of them saw this happen before ever, but the DM very much held a grudge. He made all our rolls need a roll of 15 DC or immediately failed, anytime we got an upper hand, or succeeded a roll. He'd give a sarcastic reply, oh you know the gods' language? They look at you funny, and decide to attack you first. You successfully investigate a puzzle. Yeah, it's a puzzle. You look through the window. Yup, you see glass alright. Suddenly he stopped letting us succeed in any waste world, make him need to improvise his story from its basic plot. We were there for combat and puzzle solving. Nothing else was seemingly allowed without the skills not working. We quit the game after that entire mess.